What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 31 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and we got a doozy for you tonight, guys, because this Late Pick 5 and opening day of Del Mar is not for the faint of heart. It is extremely difficult, but that's what makes Del Mar so great is the big field sizes. Everybody's right with each other. There's no standout favorites. So we're going to give you a lot of great analysis tonight on a lot of different horses. And not to mention that, but a Thursday regular Jim Miller after the show will be after this show talking about the Late Pick 4 on Sunday at Hawthorne with a lot of good races as well. So we're really happy to have him on the more fun show, which is, of course, Bettin N Boozin. But guys, if you are brand new here or find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't subscribed, please go, I did it the wrong way, to the bottom right-hand side of the screen and click subscribe as we are nearing that 2,500 mark. So thank you to everyone who has been subscribing lately. But while you're down there, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you miss no new videos that come out on our channel, as well as smash the like button as that pushes this video into the YouTube algorithm that helps us get more viewership. So we really appreciate anything you guys do of the sort. If you are an audio listener, please go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Those are our three main audio platforms that we post not only every episode of Bettin N Boozin on, but every single episode that airs on this podcast channel. Again, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. The power picks, these are the normal power picks that go out every single week. It's still $15.99 a month, one of the most affordable and best tip sheets on the market. It's $15.99 for an entire month, comes out to about $4 a weekend. Patreon charges per month, so you get 4 editions of the power picks, 2 tracks on each. And guys, we're still over that $2 mark, which is profit. We're $2.34 year to date. The average for any horse player is $1.60. So we're way above that average as well and way above profit. If you guys aren't subscribed, you guys are definitely missing out. Patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast for the main power picks. And the Saratoga power picks are still going on. You can get in for this weekend. If you didn't sign up for the full meet last weekend, we had a bunch of people sign up. So thank you guys so much for signing up. Hopefully this week with it, the weather can stay kind of true to keep us on the turf to help the power picks bang out this weekend. But go to hhhracingpodcast.com, our great website that details everything. It is the Power Picks tip sheet tab on the top of the screen. Then you'll see all the different options. If you're a current Power Pick subscriber, you get $5 off each weekend. And it's $14.99 for the weekend, $5 a card. We cover Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then for non-Power Pick subscribers, again, that is $20. But again, guys, if you are interested, please go to hhhracingpodcast.com for the Saratoga only powered picks. But guys, like I said, we're going to rattle these off because we got a lot to get through and a lot of horses to get through, plus an extra for Wednesday, Jim Miller coming on the show. But I'm going to bring on all my co-hosts right now, go through a little bit of the chat, then we'll get going here on the opening Del Mar Late Pick 5. From the New Jersey area, Patrick Kunsel. From now Chicago, Illinois, Charlie Freeman. And guys, we got a full house today coming to you from the west coast of California, Noah Meagher. Guys, we're all together. Boys, what's going on?
Nothing much. Excited for Del Mar.
Hey, I know one guy, the guy mainly under me, is very excited for Del Mar, again, being from the west coast. So first thing I wanted to start off with for this podcast before we get into the Late Pick 5 on Friday is, Noah, I want you to talk about what kind of tendencies you notice as like I said, you're local to the area, you play Del Mar almost every day when it's out there. Is there anything that you kind of try to hone in on or notice when you're playing Del Mar?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first off, we got to talk about the weather because it's been extremely hot throughout most of California. Yep. So I got to believe that times are going to be pretty fast. Typically, the dirt is very speed favoring. I'd say you probably got to be within a couple lengths of the lead to have a chance. Closers are very rare. The only horse I saw legitimately close last summer was Justique, and she was a one-turn monster. So
yeah.
And then as for the turf, I'd probably lead more towards favoring closers. But I mean, you never know. It's probably going to be very firm. So you'll probably have to pay attention to the first couple of days. On obviously you can't let a quality horse go 24 and change and 49 for the half. So you gotta be careful.
Well, yeah, and judging by these races we have on hand, it does not look like that's going to be the case, that anyone's going to get away with those slow fractions. But he is right. Like I said, that's why I like to have him on the show, especially for the West Coast, because it has been very hot out there. The turf is going to be most likely very firm unless they get some, freak rainstorm that I didn't see in the forecast coming up to this Friday. So it is going to be very firm. So keep an eye on that for your handicapping for Friday. But guys, again, I even brought out the Del Mar Breeders' Cup glass from 2021, excuse me, 2020 was Keeneland, but I even brought out the Del Mar glass. We got to be, proper and special out here. But Steve Pogel, thanks so much for joining the show, my friend. He said he's driving home from a very successful day at Saratoga, won his first ever steeplechase bets. Absolutely. The AP Smithwick was today. That 16-1 came through in front. I mean, if you watch that race, that horse never looked like a loser. So, Steve, congratulations on the exacta and the try. Yeah, that's definitely a lot of extra cash for Del Mar, but congratulations, Stephen. Thanks so much for joining the show, my friend. Stephen Vanderbrook, thanks so much for joining the show. Smash that like button, as he says every week, and we greatly appreciate it. Absolutely smash that like button. Vale Place is here. Michael Austin, what's going on, my friend? Thanks so much for joining the show. And David Barista, great time with you guys last week in Crestwood. Good luck at Del Mar, Bettin N Boozin, boys. Thanks so much, David. Again, for all of you that showed up to the Crestwood OTB for the pool party last weekend, although the bets didn't end up going our way at the end of the day, it was still a ton of fun to meet all you people out there. It was, I mean, like I said, always Hawthorne puts on a great product for us, and they set us up really well. So, if you guys came out, thanks for coming out, and great to meet all of you guys. Michael Austin says he's at Del Mar now. Weather is great, 78 degrees, 2 p.m. today. Back in LA, it was 95. So again, yeah, make sure you hone in on that Del Mar, San Diego area, as it is a little bit south of LA. Tanner Hawkins is here. Thanks so much for doing the show, my friend. And a boss asks, are tides coming out a thing when the tide is in, more speed favoring supposedly? But I mean, it's that type of, I think it's like that moisture angle. I'm sure, Noah, you'd be a little bit more in tune with that. But Charles B., thanks so much for doing the show, my good friend. Really appreciate it. And the boss, last thing we'll touch on before we go. How did Patrick do at Saratoga today? I heard a rumor, Patrick. Apparently it's going around. I haven't heard anything. What's going on?
Yeah, that rumor's true. Howard and I hit the Late Pick5 today, which was nice. Got me off the schneid of a disaster weekend up at Saratoga last weekend. So happy to kick off the second week of Saratoga with a nice hit at the Late Pick5.
Absolutely, man. Congratulations. And I hear you. So anything to get me as well off the blocks for last weekend would be greatly appreciated. But guys, like I said, it's going to be pretty rapid fire here. I'm going to let the guys talk about each of their top picks and anything they want to mention. I'll kind of go person by person this show to kind of, keep the flow going. I'll first, I'll rotate, but we'll just kind of go ebbs and flows of it. But if one person touches on a horse, you don't feel like to feel free to touch on a little bit, but not too much as we go through these races, guys. Like I said, this sequence, I don't know about you guys, this sequence was rough, like rough as in great racing, but man, was it there's no, really heavy favorites. There's no horses that really stand out. A lot of these horses on this card are really intermingled with each other, and obviously that makes for really good betting. So race number 6 is the first race on the Late Pick5. It is an optional claiming 40,000, starting off with Howard and my favorite race, 5 furlongs on the turf, and a full field of 12, including and also eligible that hasn't got in. And I want to put us full screen here, is that if you're looking at your PPs now, be wary that there already has been some scratches from this Late Pick5 and some also eligibles that have already got in because of that. So I will obviously go through all of those that have already come through, but just something to keep in mind if you're looking at your own PPs. And as I bring up the picks now, all of us have different picks on top. This is why we love Del Mar. This is why we play it. We can go so many different ways. Charlie, you are first on the ticker, so you are going to go first. You have the number 10, King Apollo, on top for Kent DeSormo and Kelly. Is that Kelly Mahal? Let me check real quick. I don't want to.
Kristen.
Kristen, thank you. I could not remember for the life of me. But what did you like most about King Apollo?
Man, this was such a tough race. Like I said, I always try now that we get the programs before the odds come out to pick. And I thought King Apollo would be up there for sure. But I definitely didn't think if King Apollo was the favorite, the horse would be any sort of heavy favorite. I really do think that's why I didn't try to do the extra credit for this episode. Spoiler alert, I did not do a pick 5. But yeah, this was just such a difficult race to break down. But honestly, I saw the consistency. I really like the figures with the 85, 91, 84, 86. It really looks like King Apollo is coming into the best form of the horse's career. Obviously, I know California, the works are faster than anywhere else, but still 247s and a 59 is solid enough to get me excited. Love also that the jockey has been riding King Apollo consistently. Again, I was looking for consistency because this is such a wide open field. And if you're really looking for anything, I guess, to signal one horse over another, it's that.
Yeah, and this is one thing that I'm going to touch on a little bit here. This, King Apollo looks the best on paper or one of the best on paper and has nice figs. This horse is just it's very grindy, and on this turf course, at least in my experience, I like to have horses that have a little bit more of a punch per se than necessarily a very grindy, wear them down type, which is what King Apollo really is. And he will get a fast pace in this race, but I'm not exactly sure if, especially since he's going to take a lot of money, I don't want him on top. But Charlie, go ahead, talk about your other two picks a little bit, and then we'll go on to Patrick.
Yeah, so I won't say too much about the 6 just because I see on the ticker that's your top pick. But yeah, for me with ambivalent.
Ambivalent.
Ambivalent. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm stumbling over myself. Again, another horse that's solid. Again,
Ben turns 21 once, and all of a sudden he's stuttering, he's slurring already. So he apparently. But sorry, Charlie, go ahead.
No, you're good. The only concern I had with this horse, I actually wanted to make the 6 my top pick, but the only concern is the horse not running since September of 22. I mean, the figures say yes. The efforts have been very solid coming off the pace, which is a preference of mine. The works do signal, at least in my eyes. Again, I know California times tend to be faster, but that the horse should be ready off the layoff. Shouldn't be too rusty. I mean, obviously it might have some rust, but might need a race. That was the only reason I couldn't put the 6 on top. I'm not as bold as you are, but certainly think the horse is a real shot. And then for the 5, honestly, I was just looking for a price to throw at the bottom just because, again, especially in these wide open races, again, the horse is working well. I mean, got a very gutsy win last time out, got to the lead fairly easily, but at a huge price, you see it 42-1, and then was just able to dig in and, after drawing away, was able to hold off in time. That was obviously at 6 furlongs. Now we're going a little shorter. So I'm just hoping if the horse can maybe show similar speed like that without having to worry about going even as far. I just think Saul's Call is an interesting. Plus, I just like the name because it kind of reminds me of Better Call Saul.
Well,
it's just like an interesting horse at a price.
I'm sure that's exactly what this horse is named after, to be completely honest with you. And I mean, look, this horse dealt with a fast pace last time at 42-1 and was able to deny everybody else. Gets a trainer switch to Jesus Nunez, so maybe he can continue the form, but there definitely is other speed in this race. Patrick, we're going to you, my friend, as you have a horse that we have nowhere. Any of us have nowhere. And it ends up being the morning line favorite at 7-2, Patrick.
Chalk eater. I'm not the chalk eater anymore.
Well, listen, I get on the call before and, I'm getting busted for all these picks being off the board, and we look, and this is the morning line favorite. And listen, I'm not telling you to take this horse as the morning line favorite coming off the layoff, coming back since November 26th of 2022. But if there's one trainer I'm going to trust, Peter Miller might be one of the best coming off long layoffs, hitting at 24%. He got this horse at 3 years old, and the horse vastly improved off its first start. And that was at Del Mar on the firm turf at 5 furlongs. I just think this horse fits in this company and is tactical, but has an insurmountable amount of speed. And I think with a wide open field like this, I'm going to trust the trainer and Peter Miller and take this horse. Odds, I was expecting a little bit more, not going to lie, but I think this horse is going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, look, the morning line favorite most could be deservedly, but like I said previously, there's a lot of speed in this race, and this horse has got Liberty Forever's gotten it his way many times, and then, I think that's what's reflected in the form. Look, he's definitely a candidate for a win, but I just don't frankly know how good Liberty Forever is, and at a price of 7-2, I will be looking elsewhere. But Patrick, go ahead and touch on anyone else you want. I know Charlie talked about the 10. You can touch on a little bit, but then you have a horse that none of us have as well in the 12.
Yeah, I'll touch on the 12. Haladic. This horse, it also has a ton of speed from the outside. It's going to be tough, but Ryan Hansen's a solid trainer, and I just think this horse could end up sitting a nice trip if it can clear. And first time Lasix, which might not hurt the horse that bad. So I don't know. I'm just trying different horses here with different stuff at Del Mar. You just, in these types of turf sprints, you never know.
Well, yeah, and I mean, the only thing is I didn't like Haladic is just because of the draw. I think if he was more inside 7th, 8th post, I think I would like him a lot more. Just with all the other speed in the race coming from that 12 hole, it's going to be a tough task. But if he continues to improve off those 77 efforts, he definitely could be live in this spot. Noah, my friend, I should have started with you realistically because you're the West Coast fan, but you have a horse in here that none of us have either in Rexford.
Yeah, nobody on the show's got this horse, even the boss. I love it. So with Rexford, I thought it was strange enough that I kind of like the switch from Barrios to Gonzalez because although Gonzalez had been very cold at Santa Anita, kind of like Rudy Rodriguez at Saratoga last year. But I feel like the races that Gonzalez was on him, he tended to be a lot closer to the pace. And I feel like with a lot of speed and not very many closers, I think he's got a good enough late kick to where he can kind of get by, he can get around, sit the trip, and then kind of hold off horses like King Apollo, who I think Zormo's going to have way too far back. And the horse likes Del Mar, and it's really hard to not trust D'Amato in these turf races.
Well, I'll tell you what, being second to Scape Artist in the last is not a bad place to be, even though it was by 4 1/4. But Noah, you also have a horse in here that none of us had, was the 2 Barsabas. I like of course we love the name, but Adan Faralas and Adolfo Aguilar.
Yeah, this was simply a board horse for me because, like Charlie said, this race is so wide open. I could use so many in this race. But the thing about Barsabas was when he's favored, he doesn't seem to really run, and then when he seems to be a big price, he runs huge. So the fact that he's going to be 20+1, maybe he could get a price underneath. I'm just not confident in any of the favorites, really.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is one of the races that you can go so many different ways. I mean, it's like I love the fact that you brought up the odds because it seems like Horton horses, it's like they know they're a big price, so they have to run huge. But if there's a lot of pace in front of him based on that last race at Santa Anita, I know he was bumped early and he was kind of steady back. But if he runs that middle trip again, he's obviously shown he can pass horses. So at 20-1, Barsabas is definitely one for the eye. But I'm going to touch on my 2 real quick and we'll move on. Ambivalent's my top pick. And I don't know if this horse has been like ouchy or what's been going on with him, but he raced in 2020 at Del Mar in the Belmont in the Champagne and the Bob Hope. Obviously didn't do too much, but was great in the juvenile turf at Del Mar. Then he went to the UAE Derby, obviously behind Rebels Romance and stuff like that. I mean, that's top-notch stuff, being a 1-win horse. Comes back to Del Mar in September of 22, gets 5th in an optional claimer, although he lacked room. I won't show the replay because we're trying to move pretty quick here, but that's a replay to watch. At 16-1 off of a massive layoff. Runs pretty big. Like, he could have easily gotten 2nd or 3rd in that spot, and I'll show the chart. I mean, you can just look. I mean, look how many horses. There's 5. A Straight No Chaser obviously didn't run very well because I don't think he's a turf horse by any means. But you can see what Straight No Chaser has done in his recent races. Yang Again's been a really good optional claiming horse. Lincoln City's another good optional claiming horse. I mean, just a lot of live horses coming out of that race. So off the layoff, turning 5, hopefully can turn a new leaf and improve a little more. The horse is definitely working like he should take a step forward. I'm very interested and ambivalent in this spot with Mario Gutierrez and Doug O'Neill in this spot, especially if you're getting anywhere near that 6-1 price. I think Ambivalent is extremely interesting. And the one horse that I don't have and that I have and no one else has anywhere is Chasing Money for Mark Glatt and Espinoza. I mean, the only thing that I don't like about this horse is he could send, but I feel like this is one of the horses that has early speed, but can also rate a little bit off the top. So maybe underneath at a price of 8-1, I would look for a horse like Chasing Money. I love the outside post, although he hasn't really run very well at Del Mar at these 5 furlong races. He hasn't been that far off of it. Just at a little bit higher level, what I point out. So getting back to that 5 furlong distance, hopefully sitting mid-pack on the outside, I think Chasing Money is interesting underneath at a morning line price of 8-1. I'm going 6-10-9. Charlie's going 10-6-5. Patrick's going 4-10-12. Noah's going 8-10-12. Guys, bringing back us full screen. I want to go over a few chats here. In Sheets player, I know Howard already shouted you on the chat, but I don't think I've seen your name before. So thanks so much for joining the show, my friend. Cheers to you. Del Mar for years. Inside speed is good at this track. I would agree with you, especially on the turf. The other thing to note about that turf is they have that chute on the inside coming down the stretch, which I think helps horses obviously to the inside as they gain a little bit more room coming down the stretch. But Sheets player, thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. And Charles B is correct. That's the one other horse that's interesting is the 13 took charge on the outside. If he gets in, he's going to show a lot of speed on the outside. If he can clear, he's very fast. And if he clears, that horse is definitely interesting at a morning line price of 5-1. But guys, thanks so much for everyone for joining the show. I see a bunch of chats. Unfortunately, we're trying to go a little bit quicker here, but that's the one thing that I try to do is get to a lot of chats. And one today might be a little bit less chat day, but thanks so much, everybody. I see all your comments. I read all of them. We will respond if able. Guys, we're moving on to race number 7. It is, as I switch the PPs, I made it full screen, so give me 1 second. It is race number 7 on the card at Del Mar. It's a starter allowance, 50,000 going 1 mile on the dirt. Again, Del Mar is a 2-turn mile, so keep in mind there is a full field of 10 now with the number 9 Carpe Bellum scratch. So the 11 deservedly gets in from the outside, and I think he's very interesting. No, I'm not trying to spoiler, but I think he's very interesting as I put up the picks now. 3 of us have the number 8, the morning line favorite Clooney on top for Adolfo Aguilar and John Sadler. The 11 is also in there for a lot of us. But Patrick, you are going to go first, my friend. Talk about Clooney and why you like him most on top.
Yeah, listen, his last 2 starts, buyer speed figure wise, just kind of tower over this field. Sadler has been kind of cold of late, which is a little bit concerning. But I would have thought at 7-2 morning line, to be honest, I would have thought that would have been lower. This horse has just, shown its tactical speed coming from off the pace and has faced some pretty good horses. So the distance is not going to be a problem. And I think there'll be speed signed on. So I like this horse a lot. And this would be one of my better bets of the day. Hello?
I'm muted somehow. I have no idea how, to be honest with you. That's strike 1 for me today. Usually there's about 5 strikes on me, so I'll take it 25 minutes in. But obviously I'll let other people talk about, and I'll give my 2 cents at the end. But Clooney's definitely, I think, a deserved favorite in this spot. I think he sits the right trip with Aguilar on top. Patrick, go ahead, as you have 2 horses that 2 other people have in third, but not necessarily are too keen on them. The number 5, Goldeneye, is your second choice.
Yeah, Goldeneye for Peter Urton is going to be one of the speeds of the speed. Is coming off 2 turf races actually, and I was kind of wondering, what was going on there with those. The horse seemed to take to the turf, but I prefer this horse on dirt. And I think this horse, like I said, being the speed of the speed, should sit a great trip and, could go wire to wire. So I wanted this horse on my tickets for a good trainer, Peter Urton, who's hitting at over 20% on the year so far.
Yeah, I mean, look, Goldeneye is definitely going to be in front, and being that this dirt course, especially how dry Del Mar has been and how hot it's been, I think Goldeneye is definitely interesting on top. But then you have the number 7 in third, who's been a pretty good turf horse, has that one really nice start at Santa Anita coming off the turf on a pretty a watered dirt course.
Yeah, listen, this is kind of a pace meltdown horse that I always like to put underneath, just in case. But yeah, this horse is going to have to come off the pace, like I said. And Little Red Feather Racing, I actually know somebody at work who is a part owner of these in Little Red Feather Racing, so I figured I'd give him a little kudos.
Look, I mean, they're a great ownership. They, we have at Crownsway, we have them face a bunch of our horses, i.e. Beer Can Man, just one that comes to mind. Face Jay, and is obviously a very nice horse in his own right. Keen to Go is interesting. I don't know if there's enough pace ahead of him to be able to close into, but at a price hopefully above 6-1, definitely interesting. Noah, you're going second here, my friend. You have the number 11 deservedly on top.
Yeah, I had to put my Desormo hatred to the side and put the horse on top.
I was gonna say you're 2 for 2 here.
Yeah, but kind of other like, sorry, what am I trying to say? Unlike what you guys, sorry, having a little bit of a failure here. Unlike what you guys said, I feel like there's not a ton of speed. I feel like the turf speed doesn't do a lot for me. So what I thought with this 11 horse is, Desormo can break, look to his left and kind of dictate how fast he wants to go. And then it's always a plus to be on the speed in this dirt track. The only concern is whether or not Desormo will do that. But if he does, I think the horse has a shot.
Yeah, I mean, from the outside, there's not a whole lot of speed. As Noah stated, I mean, if this horse can clear especially, he's extremely interesting the outside, as I have him in second. But Noah, the number no, actually, we talked about all the other horses. Do you have anything else to add on the other two that we talked about?
I will say on the number 8, it is unfortunate that Hernandez has to miss opening day because of a suspension that I could describe with a word that I probably shouldn't use. And then with the 7, I thought the 7 was a little interesting. Mullins and Barrios are dynamite together. And out of Keen Ice, I think the horse should take to the dirt. The only problem with that horse is I feel like he might be a little too far back to contend for the win, but he could definitely run up and clunk in the money.
Yeah, especially when you have a horse that is run well on dirt previously, kind of muddied up turf form, and it hopefully above 6-1. I think the number 7, as I said, is interesting. Charlie, you have the number 5 in here that you have Goldeneye in your top 3 that Patrick touched on, but didn't really talk too much about. What'd you like about Goldeneye in second?
Yeah, I just saw the improvement in the figures and being able to deal with like a really hot pace and, show an ability, which again, we talk about on this show, how important versatility is. And, you look 2 back and a few others back, a lot of races, Goldeneye's tended to have to be on the lead. But instead, in the horse's best effort to date, the horse set off the pace. And that's what I'm kind of hoping for again in this race, is not to be where the closers are, but also not be in the speed of the speed, since you kind of have a good mix of those 2 ends, but kind of having that opportunity to stalk and trip. And I think you could honestly get better than 5-1 on this horse. For me, originally, as Patrick was touching on, I was going to have the 8 when we get to our best bets later as my best bet of the day. But everything really changed for me when Deservedly came into this race because, Deservedly raced against Clooney before. They had a good battle, which Deservedly won. And personally, I do think this is more of a 2-horse race between Deservedly and Clooney. I kept flipping back and forth between who to put on top. Ultimately, I'm always more biased towards the closing horses that come late. So that's why I went with. And then the one thing on a whole different topic that I want to know is I want to know Noah's beef with Desormo, and if his hatred or dislike, I'll be kinder, dislike towards him is as much as Kyle and I have for a guy named Joel Rosario. That's what I want to know at some point.
Dude, Paul Halloran's one of the kings of this, but we love good banter. We love good banter. But again, I'll give my 2 cents, then we'll move on. Clooney, I think, is definitely the best horse in the field. Whether it's, I like that he'll be more middle based on form than maybe way far in the back of this race. I think his best 2 starts have been his last 2. So if he continues to improve off those starts for Sadler and Hronis Racing, I mean, obviously, Hronis is a very, very good connection to have. So I like Clooney on top, especially if he sits just in behind the speed in that 4th, 5th, 6th pocket area. Deservedly, I think, is going to take money, and I think, no pun intended, deservedly so. I mean, the horse flying from coming from the outside, not a whole lot of speed to his inside. Should get to at least the 3 path, if not the 2 path. He's very fast, and if this horse can clear, he's extremely dangerous on the front end. And I have the number 2 in third, Big Hat Willie, Peter Miller, Ruben Diaz. I mean, Ruben Diaz. He's the Man City player. Wow. Okay.
That's great.
We're skipping that. We're skipping that. But
that's
I think
strike 2 right there. That's got
that's strike 2. That's
player?
strike 2. Hey, Ruben Diaz. Hey, great defender, by the way. But I think this horse just sits the trip. I think Big Hat Willie, especially on the inside, I think he sits a really nice trip in like the 4th, 5th, 6th pocket, as I stated before. For Clooney, he's going to have to wait for Clooney to go to his outside most likely. So I think he'll try and follow Clooney, and I think he's very interesting underneath. Maybe not on the win end, but definitely underneath. I'm going 8-11-2. Charlie's going 8-11-5. Patrick's going 8-5-7. Noah, who is muted, is going 11-8-7. Boys, moving on to race number 8. See, there he is. I had to get it in. But race number 8 is the Oceansides, the feature of the day, Friday at Del Mar. But let's see here as I switch over the entries right now. It is the Caesars Sportsbook sponsored Oceanside Stakes, going 1 mile on the turf. Another full field of 14, might I add. But the morning line favorite is the number. Oh, I thought it's the number 10. Wow, it's Escape Artist. Okay, Escape Artist for Noah's favorite, Kent DeSormo and Michael McCarthy, as I switch over the PPs and the picks right now. But let's see. And 3 of us have the number 1 Classic Cat on top. And my man, Patrick, going against the grain, as he stated before, has this horse absolutely nowhere. Patrick, I would go to Noah first, but you're first up, my friend. You get to talk about Escape Artist and why we are completely wrong.
Yeah, against the grain with the favorite, I guess. No.
Yeah, well, no kidding. That's also true.
Listen, this horse's last race was, I mean, watching that replay, the horse was fantastic. Stumbled out of the gate and, found its footing and just sat an awesome trip. And, the fractions were, somewhat quick, but I just think this horse is the clear favorite in the race, and for connections that are fantastic, I don't see why this horse can't improve off this race and the speed in this race is tough to tell because of horses that are stretching out in distance. So, I don't know exactly where Escape Artist is going to sit, but I'll trust DeSormo and McCarthy on where they want this horse to sit because I really like this horse's last race.
I mean, yeah, and I just showed it on the screen now. I mean, just a clear winner, especially giving them about a length and a half out of the gate, having to rush up a little bit on top. But, I mean, wait, where did I? Okay, there we go. The number 10 Escape Artist is definitely interesting on top. I think he'll want to sit either pressing or just behind the pace because this is another race with plenty of speed in it. So, but I don't think he has any trouble passing horses, even though he does his best running in the top flight. But Noah, you're going next, my friend, and Patrick, I'll let you touch on at the end because your 2 horses we have nowhere, but we're going to go through because all of us are pretty similar around the bend here. So Noah, the number 1 Classical Cat, we all have this horse on top. I thought that horse's last race was very, very good, beating a horse. And this was at 2 years old, by the way, for Classical Cat, under Rispoli, beating horses like First Piece and Nagarok, if that rings a bell to anybody out there. Beating Nagarok pretty convincingly. Noah, what'd you like most about Classical Cat?
Yeah, the horse hasn't done much wrong at all. I think the horse has the potential to sit off just right off the lead, sit a really good trip. With the amount of success and ability to spot horses, the long layoff does not bother me at all. And also, it's interesting to see that D'Amato also has a rabbit in the 12 who cannot win. Like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if this horse was a pretty heavy favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely be a fight because Escape Artist is one to definitely take money, and especially off that last effort, I think Escape Artist will take the money and will be the favorite. I definitely thought Classical Cat was going to be the morning line favorite, at least because we did all for everyone out there, we did all these picks without morning lines, and all of them did it without post position numbers, as that was sorted out before the show. But I mean, running into a pace at Santa Anita, going 23-2 and 47 flat, that's not very quick for Santa Anita at all. And having this horse just up late on the outside, I think, is very showing of what this horse's ability is at 2 years old, let alone coming back off the layoff at 3. And D'Amato wins at a 17% clip of over 250 starts in the last 5 years. So if there's anyone I'd like off the layoff on the turf, especially, it's D'Amato. But I'll talk about my top pick later. But Noah, me and you have the same second place horse where no one else has anywhere in the number 9. That is Conclude for another D'Amato for Hector Berrios, and then finish off with the 3, as no one has that, as Charlie has the 1 third, but you guys are the only ones.
Yeah, this horse is pretty similar to Classical Cat, but with everything that's going to shape out, I think this horse has to sit off. I don't think he's fast enough to get the lead. So if you take that into consideration and he doesn't have things go his way, you can kind of look at that race where he was 3-5 and didn't have things go his way. So, if you're kind of thinking, my thought process was, if he's not going to be on the lead and he's going to have to sit off, can he actually do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the true thing, right? Being on the outside in a race with a lot of speed to his inside, Hector Berrios will definitely have to find a trip for Conclude. But going down the hill, I know, as Charles B pointed out in the chat, Del Mar's a 2-turn mile, but down the hill plays more like a mile usually. So the distance doesn't necessarily bother me, but it will be this horse is going 2 turns for the first time. So just something to keep in mind for everybody out there. But Conclude looks to be the speed in this spot and is really interesting to me. But Noah, finish it off. Why do you, the number 3 is Zalamo for Leonard Pollard and Mike Smith at 8-1 morning line coming over from France.
Yeah, this horse is really interesting to me. Definitely my favorite out of the 2 Euros. I don't think the other horse really has a shot, but it was what I thought was pretty interesting was the horse liked the firm footing more than the soft, even though it wasn't the turf. I feel like being a Euro, I feel like the horse was bred to run on the turf. Powell isn't particularly great with Euros, but he did get a work in on the firm turf course at Del Mar, so that was very intriguing to me. So I feel like he's definitely getting this horse ready.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, Paulo knows how to spot his horse as well. Although he is 2 for 22 with foreign shippers over the last 5 years. So all the horses he's gotten coming from overseas, he's won only 2 in the last 5 years. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But the horse worked a bullet over the Del Mar turf course, whether you take that into account or not. Zalamo is definitely going to be interesting. And I do agree with you, Noah, that he's the better out of the 2 Euros that are coming over. But Charlie, going to you next. Obviously, you have the 1 on top, Classical Cat, the number 10 Escape Artist, and the number 3. Is there anything else that you want to touch on that Noah didn't?
Yeah, so I think it was actually supposed to be 13 because I think the horse had was Game Time, and I think that was 13, not 3. So yeah,
13?
Yeah, no,
okay, go for it then.
No, you're good. But yeah, so for Game Time, when it's to me, I mean, obviously, real quick with the 1 and 10, obviously for me, those were the clear-cut top 2. I thought Classical Cat would open favorite, but I think maybe, as you mentioned, with the layoff and also with how talented Escape Artist has shown, and especially with that last effort, I do agree, though, with the way the horse was kind of, towards the end kind of drifting out makes me a little nervous. But yeah, if the 1 comes back for Phil D'Amato off the layoff, I do to top form. I think the 1's tough to beat. But the reason why I thought Game Time was interesting at a price, obviously having to overcome the gate for sure. But another horse where, again, I talk a lot about how much I like versatility, a horse that can be right in the lead or just off the pace and has gone toe-to-toe with the top 2 horses. Put up a very solid 4th and just didn't have enough at the end against Classical Cat, and then ran against Escape Artist and ran a respectable 4th, but only lost to the winner in that race by 1 length. So I think Game Time, again, the gate is the only thing that makes me nervous, but this horse has run very tough competition compared to a lot of this field, has run against the top 2 horses in this field and went toe-to-toe with them. And again, in terms of from a price point, if you're looking, play one of the top choice horses with a price at 8-1, I love Game Time. I do not think this is an 8-1 horse in this field.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, the post is what, kind of draws you away from this horse a little bit. But, I mean, Sadler, Ayuso, Ronis, I mean, the connections are there. If this horse can get out of the gate and set a decent trip, Game Time is definitely interesting at a price of 8-1. But I'll talk about I'll talk about why I like these. Classical Cat off that last race, I already touched on it. I thought the Eddie Logan was very good, and coming back at 3 with D'Amato, I think he can even improve off that 85. Maybe he needs one, but I'm willing to take a chance. Hopefully, my value line on that would be probably a morning line of 4-1. If he drifts anywhere below that, maybe 7-2 is maybe okay. But once you get down 3-1, I don't think it's very worth on Classical Cat. But the number 10 Escape Artist, I really like his last race. I mean, but just sitting off the lead, although he did stumble and have to rush up a little bit. Simon O'Neill, thanks so much for joining the show, my friend. He says the lugging left that we showed in the stretch worries me for Escape Artist, could cause some trouble. I do agree with you, but I mean, he's seasoned in his own right. Turning 3, good magic, tap it. The distance is no worry at all for me. I think Escape Artist is going to be the morning line favorite, and I think he's going to be very interesting in this spot. But I have the number 9 Conclude in second as well. I mean, it's just a matter of, it is his first time going 2 turns, but I think Conclude could definitely be the speed of the speed in this race. And as Noah pointed out, if you can stay on the front end in these spots, especially with how firm the turf course is going to be, I think Conclude could definitely get the jump on everybody and stay at the lead, as he has survived a 42 and 2 half mile in a 6.5 furlong race, which is absolutely ridiculous, realistically speaking, even going down a hill. But I think Conclude is very interesting in this spot, and I'll get to obviously my best bets later, but I still like Classical Cat on top. I'm going 1-9-10. Try's going 1-10-13. Excuse me. And then Patrick's going 10-7-6. Actually, excuse me, Patrick. I wanted to let you touch on your picks, as Howard actually likes the 7 for a bomb underneath. Excuse me, everybody. My bad. Patrick, go ahead and talk about agency. And then Mr. Fisk, obviously, is on Baffert horse, who we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah, listen, with agency, I mean, the horse won on debut last year at Santa Anita towards the end of that meet, kind of winning at like a perfect time, because, then it could set up for itself at Del Mar, running in the best pal, ran against Having a Meltdown, who was a great horse. And then, the Del Mar Futurity, and this is all on dirt. They have a layoff, horse runs in June, and the horse, actually gets out of the gate slow and had to be 6 wide, and the horse ended up winning. I'm not sure how great those horses are that he faced are going to come back to be, but I'll tell you, for Mark Glatt, second off the layoff, and an impressive win, I'll take a shot with a 15-1 underneath.
Yeah, and then go ahead, talk about Mr. Fisk, who has a lot of breeding that suggests that this horse is going to be good on turf. But frankly, I just don't know how good this horse really is, and I'll touch on later. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. You see the breeding, and you do think turf, and you wonder why Baffert didn't put him on turf earlier. So, this horse has been training unbelievable, which most Bafferts do. The horse is 8-1 right now. I have a feeling this horse is going to be bet down. But faced Go Rocket Ride, I'm pretty sure is going to be running in the Haskell on Saturday. Yep. So this horse has faced a ton and could take to the turf really well.
Yeah, obviously the only thing I think with Baffert not putting this horse on the turf is Arrowgates don't do very good on the turf at all. As I look here, I mean, Arrowgate has 758 starts for total races. He's 136 on the grass, and he wins at 8%. He's only won 11 races of those in turf routes. So Arrowgate's just not very good on the turf as a sire. But, I mean, and this horse probably worked. I mean, the way he's working on the dirt, I think this horse just worked his way to the dirt. But I mean, if you look at the dam side, I mean, it's all Euro turf. So I mean, 2 in Love, who has Galileo breeding, Plain Air obviously did really well on the turf here and in Europe. So Mr. Fisk has the breeding. It's just a matter of, will he be good enough and set a good trip in this field? But I think you definitely have to use Mr. Fisk if you're playing this race horizontally. Guys, moving on to race number 9 as I switch over the PPs and the entries. Give me 1 second. Race number 9 is an allowance optional claiming 40,000, going 6 1/2 furlongs on the dirt. This is the farthest one turn that Del Mar can do. Again, another full field of 12, with the morning line favorite being the number 7 Reichwist, which I was really hoping that he was not going to be the morning line favorite, but off that last effort, I could definitely see it. And we're all pretty similar in this spot. But my man Charlie, great minds think alike, my friend. You are also going with Reichwist, as am I. What'd you like most about him?
I mean, man, that last effort was just incredible. Obviously, off a major layoff, almost a year layoff, and then comes back from a 37, which again, I mean, the horse obviously took money in the debut, but it's a debut. You don't know what's going to happen. Just a disastrous start, though. Then comes across the country off that big layoff and just romps away easily. And you can see it wasn't one of those, where maybe they put the horse. Obviously, you see 61,000 maiden special weight, so it seems like, oh, it's a big drop off. But clearly, the public didn't believe in the horse because the horse was 17-1, but did not look like that at all. Again, winning by 7 lengths, which especially in a short race like that, at only 6.5 furlongs to win by that much is truly impressive. Kind of as I think it was Jim who mentioned it, this is one of the races where, for as many of these races that have been spread, for me personally, this was, and we'll get to this later, one of the races that was more clear for me on who to bet on. I think the 7 is going to be very tough in this spot. Oh, you're muted, Kyle.
Doing it again. Come out. See ya. All right. You, Charlie, you're host of the show now. But no, honestly, that last effort, turning first effort at 3 for this Nyquist baby out of Yakteen, out of Curlin Mare. I mean, the distance, I think this horse might want more distance, but Nyquists are very good sprinting. This horse coming back at 3 ran absolutely away, although he did get a very good trip, although it was very fast. So he was able to stay on. I love this this Colt in this spot. I think the outside post really helps him. And second off the long layoff at 3 years old, working extremely well. I think this horse definitely could fit the bill, and I don't think you'll get 7-2 on this horse in this spot. But like I said, that's my top pick. It's probably my most likely winner on the day if he runs his race. Reichwist is extremely interesting. But Charlie, go ahead, touch on your last 2. You can touch on the 5 a little bit. Obviously, Noah has that one on top in Sir Atticus, but then finish off with the 12 you have.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I'll let Noah touch on it more, but obviously anytime you see Mike Smith, I mean, he's so well known, you got to be excited. But yeah, for me, again, it was just a big improvement. Takes a month off, comes back and improves by 20 on the buyer and has a very solid win. Obviously not necessarily going away, but also I believe I might be remembering wrong, but I don't think the horse had necessarily the best beginning to the race. I think it was a little off slow. Did take some money though, which is obviously a good sign after not such a great effort early on when it lost to Del Margeri. Again, I'll let Noah touch more, but I just thought Sir Atticus was interesting. I was more so just looking for underneaths. And then with the 12, Tahoe Sunrise, another Baffert horse. Obviously Lost Kingdom Heart lost by 6 lengths. Wasn't the best effort. And I'm kind of just banking on the horse going back to more in the efforts before where the horse did look a little bit better. Has consistently taken money. The works have been incredible, but as you mentioned, Baffert tends to make that happen. And then real quick, I thought this was going to be a unique horse because, I always like to have on our show 1 or 2 long shots that I don't include that I like to mention, but it seems like you and the Bossman both love the 10 Riffy. So I'll let you touch on it more since it's actually in your top 3. But I was stunned that this horse was such a long shot at the opening money line. This is 1,000% a horse I'm going to be playing in my exactas and underneath. I think Riffy is a very interesting horse, and I don't understand the money line being so high. I think the 10 is very dangerous here. Close.
Yeah, I mean, and the figures fit, right? Howard says 7-10-5. Howard, my friend, great minds think alike, as I also have 7-10-5 in this spot. He loves the number 10 under Riffy and underneath in a reverse key back wheel situation. Best closer in a field of early speed. I completely agree, Howard. This horse has dealt with cold pace after cold pace. And although he hasn't won since December of 21, I think this horse has what it takes to pick up the pieces. And like I said, maybe not win, but to get second or third, I mean, mainly second. I think this horse is extremely interesting for Gio Franco. That is number 10, Riffy. But obviously, I'll let everyone else touch on. But Noah, you're going to go next, my friend. The number 5, Sir Atticus, is your top choice for John Sheriffs and Mike Smith.
Do we have time to show the replay of the last race? Because I feel like it's educational yet amusing.
Yep, all you.
Feel free to talk and in his obviously the first race, Charlie touched on it. He was really hard to handle in debut and actually came running on late. And then in the second start rated really nicely. I thought this was super funny because the 12 was just along the outside rail, basically the entire backstretch. I think he thought he was at Fairgrounds turf or something.
That's a good one.
And then if you want to fast forward to the gallop out, I thought that was pretty cool to see. Not cool, but interesting to see. Past the wire, the 3 kind of comes up even with the 5. But he kind of keeps on running with them, and he's kind of like, yeah, you're not going by me.
Yeah,
the horse is learning. Sheriff's is typically very patient. Mike Smith stays, even though he could have gone to the Haskell a day early. I love this horse.
Yeah, I mean, look, I definitely am very interested in this horse. I have this horse in third. SARATOGA, if he sits the correct trip, like I think he will, this horse is definitely interesting in a race where there's a lot of early speed. If he can rate a little bit, just like he did in that last spot, I think SARATOGA is definitely one you need to keep in mind. And then let's see. I'm waiting for the ticker to come through. You have the number 3 in third and second. Hard to figure, a horse that none of us have anywhere. But I mean, it's Baffert horse. It's Joe Bravo, who doesn't usually ride for Baffert. Bullet work after bullet work again, as we all see. What'd you like most about Hard to Figure?
Yeah, the one thing I thought about was I've seen this story way too many times where a Baffert's struggling, running in stakes races but not running well at short prices, and then adds Lasix and becomes a completely different horse. So if this horse is going to be 5, 6 to 1, kind of hard to leave him off the ticket.
Yeah, I mean, both Bafferts might be a little bit higher prices, and you always say that when a Chad Brown or something like that goes off at 8 to 1 and wins, you're like, how the hell did I have that? Like, where was that in my ticket? But Hard to Figure is definitely one. It's just another Baffert that I don't know if he's like how good he actually is. It's just it's a lot of early pace in this spot with up, and he's dead. Unlucky. But just with a lot of early speed and just seems to give it up really easily. I just don't know how good Hard to Figure really is. But Patrick, you're going to be the closer, my friend. You have the number 12 on top, Tahoe Sunrise, that Charlie touched on a little bit. But what'd you like most about him?
Yeah, I just like the way, the horse is getting caught up in fast paces. And, even the horse when winning on debut ran 21-3 and 44 to the half, which is just crazy fast. And, honestly, that could happen in this race. I wouldn't be shocked. But just like Charlie hit on, the way the horse has been training, I watched a couple of the workouts. They're just unbelievable. And a horse is honestly working to go longer. So it makes me believe that, Baffert sees that, there is speed signed on in this race, but this horse should take, to this distance. And, with a lot of speed signed on and having the outside post is going to be tough. But if this horse can somehow rate a little bit and sit a trip, I think this horse could be tough. Even I get 8 to 1, but this horse I think is a quality horse.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you, but go ahead and finish off. I know Noah and everyone else touched on it, your other horses, but what else? Do you have anything else to add before we move on?
Yeah, no one then touched on it. The one thing with SARATOGA, like Noah said, just the being able to improve off the second start and then having something go wrong at the beginning and show that, it could, come back from that I thought that was great. There were some slow fractions in those races towards the end, but I just think SARATOGA does have a big shot. And then the 3, I'm not getting beat by the other Baffert, as they say. So I put that horse on my ticket.
Look, nothing to be wrong of there. We've seen that go wrong many times. I'm going 7-10-5. Charlie's going 7-5-12. Patrick's going 12-5-3. And Noah's going 5-3-7. Guys, we're going to go pretty quickly through this turf as we are all pretty similar in this spot. Three of us have the number 1 on top. Charlie has the number 11. I know we're all on the same horses. I'll just kind of give my 2 cents on the end here. Charlie, I'll let you touch on the top 3, and then anyone else can jump in real quick, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, so I love the 11, as we'll get into it later. Yes, this time. Last effort obviously wasn't good, but it was just way too tough. I mean, you see with the 40 to 1, this horse had no business being in the Gold Cup. But whatever. For me, this is a horse I started following, at Gulfstream. Obviously had 2 unfortunate thirds, but took a lot of money and still impressed me in those efforts. again, for me, it's really just the figures have been very consistent, other than really those 2 races that you can kind of scratch out where the pace got way too hot for the horse on March 11th. And then again, just May 29th, way too tough of a field for this horse to be in. And what I did like is, I tend to be a little biased, we've covered in the past against California horses when they come over to the East. But this is a horse that actually shown, because I know I've heard it kind of goes both ways, but Yes This Time has shown basically the ability to run everywhere, which really excites me. I also like that the horse, again, I keep talking about this, the versatility that this horse can really either be right in the front or sit off and make it work. And, has also been, some victim, though, to dealing with some very difficult paces. The figures are consistent. And also, quite frankly, I just love when I watch plays. It's just a horse I truly, really enjoy watching. I just think Yes This Time is such a great mix of speed and talent and late kick. And, you look in the race 2 back where it lost by half a length, got steadied and still almost got the job done. This horse has had some near misses and great efforts that really deserve to be winning efforts and just has gotten unlucky. So I think Yes This Time is very interesting in this spot.
And then
moving on. For my next, so for Flashiest, one that went up against Yes This Time, went toe-to-toe. That's why I had to include Flashiest somewhere. A horse that's definitely more of a deep closer and likes to sit way off the pace. That's my only concern. Certainly think Flashiest at a decent price will get in the money. I just think the horse ultimately doesn't have enough early pace to win here. And then with the one horse, Twist, made the debut in America, looked very good in the first effort. Again, didn't get the best trip either. Kind of had a rough start, got bumped, and nearly got there for the win, but couldn't quite. But yeah, I think as much as I do love Yes This Time, and we'll get to it in my picks later, I think this race is very wide open. I think Crosby Beach is interesting. I think if you're looking for a price, Balladeer is also interesting. So there's a lot of good contenders. This is a very exciting race for me.
Yeah, I mean, look, I completely agree with everything you said. Noah, I'll let you go first, Patrick, as you're a little bit different again as everybody else. But touch on anything you need to about Twist, and then your other 2.
Yeah, Charlie touched on some good stuff about Twist. I mentioned earlier Sadler's not typically good with the Euros, but the effort with the last race, having all that trouble and still running up for a nice second, I thought that was really impressive. I just think he could sit a ground-saving trip down on the inside in the pocket, and then once again, Sadler and Various are super nails.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And then you have the 11 in second and the number 7 that no one's talked about in third. Anything to touch on? Yes, this time before we move to your the number 7.
Well, let's go to the number 7 because
my
question was, how does Charlie not have his horse on top? He just lost to me and Mr. C.
That's true. That is true. His me and Mr. C fan club, as it says under his name. I mean, it's just the guys wavering as usual. But what'd you like most about luring him in?
I wanted to throw him in the third just because of that. But
you wanted to give him crap. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
I guess with the 11, Yes This Time, Charlie touched on a lot of good points. My only issue with this horse would be he just doesn't really seem to cross the wire first. I know that's probably against tougher company, but we kind of talk about it, how a horse just kind of learns how to finish second.
Yeah,
just can't seem to get his nose on the wire. But
yeah, as I was going to touch on when I talk about, so that's a very, very good point to bring up, as the horse hasn't won in over 2 years. So, but Patrick, as we've talked about Twist for a while. So anything on your underneath horses, Crosby Beach and the number 9?
Yeah, I'll hit on Crosby Beach. Listen, the horse last out, went back to a furlong, a mile, and I'm not sure. I think this horse wants longer. Did run a mile and an eighth and didn't really run much. It was kind of a weird race. Had to steady early. It was just weird, but has been working well for Michael McCarthy. I'm going to trust where he puts his horses, and I think this horse could sit a good trip. Being tactical with having a interesting draw in here with the difference and especially being bet last time out to almost favoritism. So I just think this horse should sit a nice trip.
I don't disagree with you by any means. It's just a matter of, is he quick enough, especially if that one continues to improve. But obviously you have the one on top, so the 4 is interesting underneath. And then Flashiest you have underneath, which we've already talked about for Powell. I'll run through mine. Twist, I just think second off the layoff coming to John Sadler's barn, I think he sits a really, really nice trip in the pocket, just drops back just sits off the lead. There's not too much speed in this race, so I like that he's going to be a little bit tactical, a little bit closer in this spot. And at 3-1, I'm definitely willing to take this horse, as you'll see in my doubles later. Twist is extremely interesting to me on top. The number 11, Yes This Time, as everyone's talked about. I think he's way better on the turf. I think the Gold Cup at Santa Anita was a little bit above his head, especially going to the dirt. I love that he's going to sit kind of that same trip as the number 1. I don't know if he's as good, but I like that he's outside. And although the horse really hasn't decided to win by any means, I think he's definitely one to keep in mind, especially in the money, as I think he's almost not a shoe-in. I will never say that, but he's definitely the most likely horse to finish in the money, in my opinion. The number 9, Flashiest, as we talked about. As Howard, we might have to play something together on Friday, because we've been exactly the same for the last 2 races. But I don't know if there's enough speed to get Flashiest home on top. But this horse always puts up his honest effort. And for a horse that's going to sit farther back, like I said, I don't know if there's enough speed for him to get on top, but definitely underneath. I will use this horse. I'm going 111.9. Charlie's going 11.19. Patrick's going 149, and Noah's going 111.7. Guys, great job going through all those races pretty quick. Like I said, I appreciate everyone sticking to the time. If I don't, Jim Miller might come to my house and see me through. But Noah, as you are still the guest at this point, you'll be going first with your best bets. Race number 8. Dutch Exactas 1/379. If I'm not mistaken, that is Classical Cat. If I'm not mistaken, over 379 in race number 8. And in race number 9, a win on the number 5, Sir Atticus. Go ahead, give your reasoning on your best bets.
Yeah. So in race 8, Classical Cat was very logical for D'Amato. I think that horse, if he doesn't win, I would be surprised if the horse didn't finish in the top 2 or top 3. And then to try to get some prices underneath, I've got Zalamo, the Euro. I've got Agency for Glatt, who I can't remember if it was Patrick or Charlie that was interested in this horse. And then I've got D'Amato's other, Conclude. And then in the 9th race, just a simple win bet on Sir Atticus. Yeah,
I mean, look, like I said, if I cannot remember his name right now, but if the number 7 isn't on his best game, Sir Atticus is definitely the most likely winner, and I think you'll get a pretty decent price to be able to put a win bet. No, I love it. Charlie, we're going to you next, my friend. Best bet, the Cold Exacta 7-11 and press up win bets on each was your best bets of the sequence. So riding those 2 horses into the sunset, hopefully.
Yeah, like I said, these were the races I felt strongest about. I think the 7, as we touched on, just seems too tough with that romping 7 length win last time out. Should be difficult. And then, Yes This Time, again, I just think this horse is bound to win. I understand the argument that, the horse just likes to finish the money amount, but still has won 6 out of 21 races. And I actually, just to, stand on it, I updated my my little name thing under my name from number 1 fan of Mr. C for just this episode to wishing I had 80K to claim Yes This Time. Because again, I love this horse. I love what the replay show. I don't know why they would put the horse up for claim.
Probably
I don't care. I don't care if
conditions,
that's a red flag. For me, I wish I could have the horse. I love Yes This Time. So if anybody wants to start a GoFundMe so I can get the horse, we can get one going after the show.
I'll give you a crisp good luck with that and move on. But Charlie, thanks for that. Appreciate it. Patrick going above and beyond as he gives a pick 4 for one of his best bets. Yeah, he forgot to give a pick 5 last week, which everyone gave him crap about. But race number 7, the double 8 with 7-10, and then starts in race 7, the late pick 4, 5-8 with 1-6-7, 9-10 with 12 with 1-3-4, 5-6-9. Patrick, go ahead, talk about your construction.
Yeah, so for the double, I really like Clooney in the 7th. So I have him with Agency, who's going to be a long shot, and as well with Escape Artist the 10 in there. And then for my pick 4, starting in race 7, so that's going to be the late pick 4. I put Clooney with Golden Eye, my second choice, just to cover up just in case Clooney doesn't show up. And then I went deep in the next leg. That's a turf race. And then I singled the Baffert horse. That's going to actually be morning line 8-1. I like that horse. The horse is going to run big. And then I went deep in the last for some coverage. But I do think the number 1 Twist is a possible single in a press-up ticket.
Well, right. I mean, it's one of those things that you'll either single them or you'll spread, and hopefully you'll catch a price in that spot to bump up your ticket. But this is one sequence that's definitely going to be hard for anyone playing for anyone playing horizontal tickets. So Patrick, good luck with your best bets. My best bets, I'm going 2 doubles. Race number 8, I'm going the 1 and 9 Classical Cat. I think is most likely winner and concludes going to be the best speed horse. I could add Escape Artist in there. Stay tuned on my Twitter for what I decide to go with, as I post everything I play on the weekends on Twitter at AP Roscoe K. But Classical Cat and conclude over the number 7 in the 9th race, which is I cannot remember. Why can I not remember that horse's name? The Yachtine in the 9th race, as I freaking turn over the Ryquist. Thank you. I was going to say Rykid. So pretty close. No cigar. But Ryquist, I think, is to me, is the most likely winner in the 9th race. And to provide some coverage for me, I'm going to include the number 5, Sir Atticus, in the double and then singling twist on the back end. Hopefully, we can hit both those doubles if Ryquist comes home. But if not, I have a little bit of coverage in the 9th race. But guys, like I said, thanks so much for coming on. But I'm going to leave you guys on for a little bit as he's waiting in the bullpen right now, and we're going to bring him in. The director of racing from Hawthorne, now joining the fun show for the first time, Jim Miller. Jim, what's going on, my friend?
Boys, it's Bettin N Boozin, so I'm ready. I'm ready to join you guys. I see a couple of you with some waters, but I'll partake in the boozing end of things.
Hey, I had to put it in the Del Mar glass. I got you. Don't worry.
Attaboy. Attaboy. Proud of you.
Yeah, appreciate it. But guys,
Charlie, you're the most chill guy that I've ever seen too. Just on any podcast, just hanging out, relaxing. Nice work, man.
Oh, absolutely. With how fired up I get with the takes I like to give, I feel like having the bed relaxes me a little bit to tame myself. Maybe it's a nice little balance and a yin yang kind of thing.
I love it, man. I love it.
Best part is Jim actually brought that up earlier. So my mistake was Charlie So Chilly's doing his show from his bed.
There you go.
But not at college anymore. He lost his space to do the podcast, so now he's doing it from his bed. But guys, Patrick, Charlie, Noah, we're going to say goodbye to you guys now, as we're going to go over the Late Pick 4 at Hawthorne on Saturday. But guys, thanks so much for joining the show, and crush your bets this Saturday, guys.
Have a good one.
Later, guys. Oh, I took out Jim. It's host fail. That's strike number 4 on me. Like I said, I usually get 5 for the day. But like I said, Jim, first time on this show. Thanks so much for joining me, my friend.
Man, I love seeing the youth of the show, and I say it in a way that's awesome. For those that don't know, I started at Arlington Park when I was 17 years old. I got to know Joe Christofek by working the well right outside the box seat area, right next to the press box, and Joe used to sit right outside there, and got to know one another at that point. Moved into the press box and went from there. But I'll tell you, it's nice to see young guys in racing that are just very, very energetic and want to do it and want to get involved. And we definitely need more of them. So very cool. It was a nice panel he had there.
Like I said, I appreciate it. As this show is a startup. Obviously, the boss Howard gave us a little bit of rain, no pun intended, and we kind of took it by the horns. But like I said, I appreciate all the kind words, Jim. And like I said, I've heard that story before, that Arlington story. It's an absolutely great story. That go from working the well to where you are now. It's a pretty good gig you got going on.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I learned as many jobs as possible. So it's one of those things where I've been a chart caller, I've been a track announcer, I've been a morning line odds maker, I've been a jockey agent, a horse owner. I mean, you name it, trying to learn every little bit that I can just so I can relate to everybody in the industry. But like I tell everybody time and again, I get paid to go to the races, so that's never a bad thing. So I definitely enjoy it. And hey, Howard was coming into our realm on Sunday, so he did a great job on air with us on Sunday. So it was great to have him out there. But it's nice that he was able to shuffle things around for me, because I'm going to watch the Cubs and Cards tomorrow night. So I'm glad I can join you, Kyle.
Hey, absolutely. You can join me anytime. Anytime you get tired of that show on Thursdays, feel free to come on. We'd love to have you.
Yep.
But we'll go over the Late Pick 4 on Sunday. And there's a lot of interesting races and some pretty decent fields in that on Sunday at Hawthorne. And I ended up doing my picks as well away from yours. And we're actually very similar. So that's something that I love to see as well. Race number 5 starts the Late Pick 4 on Sunday at Hawthorne. Is a maiden special weight, $38,000. Hawthorne's putting up some pretty decent purses, going 1 mile on the turf, a field of 8. And as I bring up Jim's picks right now, they are all going to be scrolling on the bottom of the screen, just as they do on Thursday's show with Howard. He is going number 3, Even the Wind, who I expect to be the morning line favorite. Obviously, you're the one that decides that, Jim.
Well, and I did decide it, and I did not set that horse as the morning
Ooh,
line
okay.
favorite. But here's the thing that's interesting. All right, you look at even the win. Look at the horse right under it, Wolf Hunter, and what you have to determine is who's going to take the money between those two. Only because Wolf Hunter comes out of the Hawthorne Derby.
True.
I mean, this was a horse that ran a decent race. It is going to be between those two. It'll be very close. But you look at that race 2 back for Wolf Hunter. That was actually the race that was probably even a little bit better, where the horse finished ahead of Even the Win. But when I get to my ticket, I'm going to use both of these horses. But Even the Win, just kind of consistent with each and every start. The one thing that I like is you see Manny Esquivel in the saddle. And Manny Esquivel is the guy that's riding at Horseshoe Indianapolis.
Yep.
Well, when they hit Sunday, Horseshoe Indianapolis takes a week off from racing. So you're going to start to see some of those horses creep up our way that are looking for races. Same with some of the riders. And Manny rode on today's card. Had a win for Chris Block on the turf course on today's card. That's where he got started when he was getting going as a bug rider there.
Yep.
So I did go with Even the Wind, but Wolf Hunter I actually thought ran a better race than even looks on paper in the Hawthorne Derby in that last out. So those are the two main horses. And then Regimental's interesting because if you get past those last couple of starts, which actually weren't too bad for Regimental, this is a horse that figure-wise is kind of consistent and on par with those other horses. So it might be a little bit more closely contested race than even it'll look when you look at the odds in the morning line too.
Right. And this is one of those where I look at this horse and you're like, this horse is getting walloped in Kentucky, and they come over and they start running really well. Maybe this horse just prefers turf, and this horse could run back to that mid 60s, which could be good enough to win this race.
Yeah.
With the number 4, I always find it interesting that I used to call him the Russians. Glockenberg has gone away from Gennady Dorochenko, who's my favorite person to hang out with at Arlington. I love listening to that guy. But I do agree with you that race back on June 8th was very good for this horse, even beating Even the Wind.
Yeah. And all choked up was a horse that wired the field that day.
Yep.
And Wolf Hunter was a horse that actually got a really good trip. That was when the turf course was real hard. It was very much a speed favoring turf course. It was hard for anyone to make up any type of ground. We saw today was our first day on the turf in the entire month of July. And it played very evenly throughout the course of the day. So I do expect Wolf Hunter to get a really nice trip and should be moving forwardly in the lane.
Taking the questions right out of my mouth, my friend, because you're, like I said, we were, Hawthorne was off the turf course after that absolute torrential downpour that we had a few weeks ago at this point. But glad to see that Hawthorne's back on the turf and now hopefully running. Hopefully that stays the heck away from everything.
Turn and burn. We're going to go 3-4 races on the grass each and every day for sure.
Absolutely love it. But Jim, we'll go on to race 6 now. It is, as I switch over the Equibase right now, it is another main special weight for 38K, going 4.5 furlongs for 2-year-olds on the dirt. Again, it's that 2-year-old time of year, full field of 9 in this race. And there's a horse on the outside for a certain man by the name of Brad Cox, who looks very interesting.
And here's the thing about it. I mean, Larry Ravelli is the king of Chicago. But again, with Indiana not racing, Brad Cox will send some of these horses up our way. And you see a horse here, Good Like Magic. I mean, the Good Magic horses have been running insanely well. And you tend to think, okay, is this a horse that may want to go a little bit longer? Well, we had a Good Magic sired horse that won at 6.5 furlongs today, breaking its maiden. You look at this horse, I don't mind the outside draw by any means. It is 4.5, which is a shorter run into the turn. But honestly, I'd rather be outside and kind of get that angle going into the turn, because if you're on the inside and you don't get away in good order, you're going to get shuffled back. Larry Ravelli has 2 in here. Everything Ravelli trains, is going to show some speed, but he's got the 3 and the 7 in the spot. Both horses that are working very well. I've seen some of the drills on Give Me a Kiss. You look at that bullet drill back 3 works back. That was a really good drill from the gate. The horse just sprung right out of there, and went blowing right by us going down the backside. So again, you're only being asked to go 4.5 furlongs in the spot. Probably going to be a pace race. Probably the most logical horses here. But when you see Brad Cox starting to come over to Hawthorne with some of these horses, you have to give it a little bit of consideration as well.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing, to your point about, being the outside, I love that. I love when 2-year-olds, especially the ones that, have really good works out at Indiana, coming over to Hawthorne. But I love the 2-year-olds on the outside. When you get to the inside, obviously horses, especially young horses that haven't raced before, can get really squirrely when they're in between or, really pressed up against horses. So I love the outside draw for Good Like Magic. And that's just another reason why I completely agree with you. on everything you said. And obviously Ravelli is not to be taken lightly in any 2-year-old race in the state of Illinois in the past, 10 years. But the most logicals, I think, make complete sense in this spot. So I completely agree with you in every regard, and as we'll see, as we'll get through these races, you'll see, like I said, I'm very in common with you. So I will definitely have no rebuttals.
That's okay.
To anything you say. But race number 7 is a 1.16 mile on the turf. Again, as we get back onto the turf, field of 9 for a lot of these older horses, which I recognize from the neck of the woods at Arlington back in the day. I was like going through and I didn't realize, and I was like, that horse is, Michelle Boyce. That horse is this. So it's just fun to see all these horses that I know and love from back in the day. But like I said, full field of 9 in this spot, going 1.16 mile on the turf for 20 claimers.
Yeah, and this is an interesting race because you have some horses that have been kind of at this level, but you have some horses that are class droppers, like the 3 Sport Peppers dropping in class. 7 Coming Up Aces is dropping in class a little bit. You mentioned the Boyce horse on the outside. This is a 7-year-old with 2 lifetime victories in Gate Crew. But I went to the inside with the 1, Aviano. This is a horse from the barn of trainer Antonio Miraz. You see a lot of recent races that have been on the dirt or the synthetic, but get back to those races last summer. This was a horse that was racing out in New York and was facing some pretty tough company as you look at some of those spots. They're claimed for the 35 non-3. But when you look at the figures, some of these races, that May 6th race at Churchill Downs was tremendous. That was a really good race against the Lowens Company. Horse was victorious that day, posted an 86 buyer. If you run an 86 buyer in this race, you're going to win the race.
Yes.
Olaf Hernandez has been tremendous all meet long, actually, on the turf. He's having one of the best meets of his career, but he's riding with confidence. This is a non-3 race. This is a horse that won an allowance race back at Churchill Downs. Everybody loves Chris Amy. The guy's won so many titles at Hawthorne throughout the course of his career. He's one of the strongest finishers I've ever seen on a racehorse as well. But this race is going to come down to pace. The 5 forward curve is going to go. That's where the big question mark is going to come. Is anybody else going to go with forward curve? But I don't know if forward curve is even fast enough to hold on there. The race 2 back, the horse kind of had everything his own way, and that was only going 7.5 and wasn't able to hold on. This race, you're going 1.16 miles. So I really think they're going to be bunched up at the top of the lane. Just going to come down to a rider's race and who gets the right trip.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I noticed as well with Aviano is, those races back in New York easily fit in this spot. And if this horse takes to the turf anywhere, I mean, these last 2 races on the Hawthorne dirt have been pretty good for Aviano. And then if he takes to the turf like he did back in 22, this horse definitely makes sense. And the only other thing I had was underneath was Gate Crew. I think this horse, maybe if there's a little bit of speed in front of him, you can sit a decent trip. But, obviously, like you said, this horse has won twice at 7 years old.
Go and highlight the turf record, and it's the perfect reason to go underneath for Gate Crew. 8 runner-up efforts. I mean, this is a horse that's won once on the turf, 8 times finishing second. So that's probably the way to play Gate Crew. Just kind of sit there, wait, and let the horse pick off horses in the lane. But they were definitely intended for the turf. They stayed in a race that came off the turf in the last out, but this horse wants to be on the grass.
Yeah, and as you can the figures alone will be able to tell you that. And obviously whether Gate Crew still has his best stuff going on 7 now is the question mark. But obviously winning 2 races, you can argue, never had the best stuff, but still good enough to get underneath. But race number 8 at Hawthorne is the classic closer, as I like to call it, the 6250 claimer going 6 furlongs on the dirt. Another field of 9. So again, pretty decent field sizes. Yeah, it's a pretty good sequence. I would assume, fighting for favoritism in this spot, I would assume Swiss Guard is most likely going to be the morning line favorite, although I might be completely wrong on that, as judging by that reaction.
Well, here's the thing. When you pull up the DRFPPs, you'll understand why, and you're going to be really confused as to why a horse is in this race. But look at the 1 horse, Simpson Bay. Now, Simpson Bay, in that last out, the numbers were solid. That last out was an excellent race. This horse dropped to its knees coming out of the gate and almost ran 2-3 jumps. But watch the start for Simpson Bay in this spot. This is the 8 horse here. And you have to watch the recovery, but it's worth watching. I think they flip over to the head on, and then we'll talk after. But
skip right past it. There we go. Right here. Number 8.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah. And then look where the horse is coming out of the gate. The horse is at the back of your screen here. And that's going to be the horse that wins the race. So
Yeah,
here's the
looking
thing.
forward a little bit.
Yeah, you're coming out of an open maiden allowance race. Simpson Bay circles the field here in the lane and comes charging late and basically wins going away.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was a horse that was entered against Allowance Company a couple of weeks ago and scratched. Now you're seeing the horse in for 62.50 non-2, and you're like, okay, what's going on here? And that's the biggest question mark. And it's something, if the horse was a legit racehorse off that last race, you're not going to run for 62.50. So for me, I laid the horse at 8-5 in the morning line because I think everybody's going to bet it off that last start, and I'm going to completely toss it in my selections just for the fact that I think you have to take a stance one way or the other. Now you get to the 4 Swiss Guard, and Swiss Guard is one of those things where somebody just mentioned, I love Chris Amy. He's my guy. Well, Chris Amy is a guy that wins at a 20% clip at Hawthorne. Brittany Vandenberg, she wins at a 36% clip. But again, look at the inconsistency in the races. You break your maiden for 25 on the front end and you blow them away. Well, then when you don't make the lead, this horse completely tosses in the towel. So that's the biggest question mark for me. There's a couple of other horses that can show a little bit of speed. If Simpson Bay breaks well, that horse could be a factor. So I actually went to the 6 horse Snowmobile in the spot. Manny Perez is a guy who's had probably one of the better meets in his career, and he starts such a vast number of racehorses. He's one of those guys that, for me as the director of racing, I love him because he helps us fill races, and he loves to run. He's in there all the time. But here's the thing. Snowmobile, you get back to that start 3 back. That was on March the 26th. That's the effort that's probably good enough to win this race, because you look at the next couple, and he probably got flattered a little bit by that effort in the 25 non-2. Said, okay, yeah, that's a big race. We won by a length and a quarter. We'll go in the 25 non-3. All right, we're going to come and try this optional 62.50. Come on now. So you're back in now for $6,250, not $62,500.
Yep.
And this is where the horse figures. So it's the one horse that could possibly push Swiss Guard a little bit early on and maybe get the jump and have that one back up. But the horse also has the ability to rate and run on late. And I laid this horse at 8-1 in the morning line, and I think you're going to get pretty close to that 8-1 too.
Yeah, and just off those last 2 efforts, I'm sure this horse will get to that, at least 6-1, 8-1 range.
Right.
But like I said, completely. I even had this horse in 3rd because I thought the same thing that you did. I mean, that a horse like that. I love Manny. We used to, toss around the crap, at Arlington and stuff like that. But he gets a little bit antsy's not the word I'm looking for, but he believes a lot in his horses, and like you said, he starts a wide variety of them. So throwing this horse in 62,000 company is probably not where this horse belongs. So getting back to a spot which is much more winnable for Snowmobile, I think this horse definitely fits. And if he can rate, he shows that he can rate a little bit, just like he did back in March at Hawthorne. I think this horse definitely is interesting as well. So, Jim, like I said, you have your pick 4 ticket here that we'll go to right now, and you ended up singling the horse in the 3rd leg. You're going 3-4-5 with 3-7-9 with 1 with 4-6-8. Again, that's $13.50. Yeah.
So kind of the way Howard and I've talked about in the past is, at Hawthorne, if you can just beat 1 or 2 favorites, it's going to be good enough to get a decent return. We have just a 15% takeout on the pick 4. So it's really hard to separate when you're looking at a couple of Ravellis and a Brad Cox in the 2-year-old race. So I think you use all 3 of those, you're going to get out of that race. The turf race, it's the 3 logical horses. But again, it may be one of those things where in race 5, they bet even the win down, like you mentioned, as a possibility. And a horse like Wolf Hunter or Regimental kind of sneaks away and runs a big race. But the key is really going to come in the last race, because Simpson Bay is going to take a lot of action. If you can beat that horse, and I'm going to completely toss the 1 horse off my ticket there, I think you have the chance for a good return. Again, it's $13.50. You know what? You beat Simpson Bay, you get a couple of second choices in your single home, probably going to pay around $100. So I'd take that return any day.
Hey, 10-1 doesn't sound shabby to me, Jim. I'll tell you that much. And like I said, I love the short tickets. I love the press tickets. So, the one in the 7th race, is Aviano. Look, as it runs back to those races, definitely interesting and definitely worth a single, in my opinion. The 8th race, like you said, I did not know that he wasn't entered in Allowance Company.
Right.
I had the horse picked on top. Now, obviously, that's something that you need. Or actually, I had the horse picked second. I think I had the Vandenberg horse on top. But anyway, that's definitely a point that people need to be taking notice. And that's one thing that a lot of people don't is, this horse was scratched in allowance company.
Right.
Now all of a sudden back down into the base claiming level, basically. So, it's definitely something. I love the toss. Like I said, as long as you can beat a few, you'll definitely get paid. So, and Howard pointed out in the chat, he said, what a pleasure on Sunday with Jim and Emily at Hawthorne on the Hawthorne feed. Support Hawthorne Racing back on the turf that the rain has finally stopped.
Spicy Italian still bugging him. Spicy Italian was the Catalano horse that he picked in a race that came off the turf that ran a gigantic race. And I think it was against a 1-5 shot that just happened to get its nose down at the wire. But Spicy Italian ran huge every step of the way. That was Howard's selection. So, yeah, Howard, I'm sorry too. But hey, you were on a horse that was a key horse in the race and battled the whole way.
Yeah, and the one thing that we always joke about on the main show is that Howard doesn't usually pick the Italian horses. So the fact that he picked a horse named Spicy Italian is a win in his own right. But yeah, like I said, that'll usually bug him for about 3 weeks. Then he'll get a pretty decent score and move on. But
he's worried about Saratoga right now. He's fine.
Well, yeah, that's also true. But again, if it kicks his shins in, well, he did very well today. So, but if it kicked his shins in like last week, then maybe he'll stop talking about it now that he won close to $1,300 or whatever.
That was a good hit.
Absolutely. But yeah, Jim, like I said, thanks so much for coming on this show. And I know you have fun against what I call the wrong team of Chicago, but as actually you do too. You're a Southside guy yourself. So
I am. I'm a Sox fan. Yeah, it's one of those where somebody offered me a chance to go and drink at the biggest bar in the world, so that's what I'm going to do.
Hey, there's no shame in that by any means. Look, I've only been to Wrigley Field 3 times. I went one time this year, and I loved it. I loved it. I will say that, but not my favorite place to go watch baseball, but certainly any place is a good place to watch baseball.
You want to be really jealous for a second?
What do you got for me?
I played on Wrigley Field.
Hey, I played at it's one that that's gonna make being a baseball guy myself, that's gonna make me go. But I played Kerry Woodfield, which is basically Cubs. Actually, I had a home run at Kerry Woodfield. That's my shining achievement.
That's a great achievement, my friend.
in like a playoff, like the sectional playoff, that's my crowning achievement. And I always go back to that. Back in the good old days of.
That's right. It's all about the glory days, my friend.
That's right, Jim. Like I said, thanks so much for coming on. Greatly appreciate it. And good luck to everybody out there with Del Mar on Friday and Hawthorne on Sunday. For myself, Jim Miller, and all of our co-hosts for Bettin N Boozin, crush your bets on Friday and Sunday. Good night, everyone. And it will click soon as I can click it now.